any political or social opinion that's turned into law by government and backed by government force can kill you. If you go out here out to turn onto this road, and there's one of Topeka's finest out here, and he sees you not use a blinker, he pulls you over, gives you a ticket. That's a death warrant. That's literally a death warrant. It is. He has issued a death warrant for you. I know it says traffic violation. I know it says minor traffic violation, but there's no such thing as a minor violation of law.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Toward Anarchy. Thank you for joining me. I'm Michael Storm, and as always, it's my pleasure to be here every Saturday night. We are worldwide right here on the Republic Broadcasting Network. You can follow along at towardanarchy.com. That's where you can find me, and wherever you find me, wherever you're hearing the show, it's Saturday night in my world, you know, but it may be a different time, a different space in your world when you find it. Wherever you find me, wherever you're listening to the show at, take a moment to click that like button. And you can follow us at Toward Anarchy on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and just about everywhere else on the internet. So appreciate you hanging out and joining me on a Saturday night. And it's one of my favorite things to do throughout the week. It really is. You don't understand how much benefit I get out of this. Being able to come here and have the conversation, being able to talk about all these things that you go through in a way. It's like therapy. It's a bit like therapy. There's no therapist here. There's nobody to sit here and judge me or pretend to not judge me and offer me platitudes about how my life should be. No, it's me sitting here talking it out and trying to figure it out. It's quite cathartic and it's fun. It is absolutely a fun thing to do. It's challenging. I'm going to challenge myself today, maybe make a bigger fool of myself on a thing or two. We'll have a little bit of fun. And, we'll try to kind of wade through some of the things that have been going on and try to make a little bit of sense of it, I guess. That's some of it. That's kind of a small part of it, really. And I started to talk about it a little bit last week. I just mentioned that I felt like not the wrong direction, but just kind of maybe not exactly pointed true north. You know what I mean? Just off a little bit. And that's how I just kind of felt about things here. And I suppose some of that has to do with all the other distractions and things that are going on in life. But some of it, most of it, I really think has to do with just finding so little value in so much of what is happening in the world. Of course, that's going to be the case. That's not cynical. That's not. It has nothing to do with a bad attitude or anything like that. It's just facts. It's just life. Most of the world has no impact on me. Most of what happens in the world has no impact on me and doesn't deserve to be in my headspace. I don't need it taking up space in my head. I need that space for other things. That's all there is to it. I have other things that I could be concentrating on and thinking about, and I shouldn't have to be worried about whether or not, whatever it is, whether it's something happening in Hollywood or it's something happening in Washington, D.C., or something that's happening in Russia or the Ukraine or Israel or the Gaza Strip or wherever it is. These things, unless I want them to be a concern of mine, they shouldn't have to be a concern of mine. And I think that there's so much extra time spent knowing faces we'll never see in person and trying to resolve ideas and things that we will never actually participate in changing or making become a reality. And that's sad. That's a bad thing. That's terrible for us as individuals, for our headspace, for our brains, for our time to be taken up by so much other nonsense. And I get it that it may not be nonsense to the certain people. It's clearly not nonsense to the people that are going through it. But we're not. I'm not. And for my headspace to be there where I can do nothing, where being there does no value for me, knowing about, there's a difference in knowing that the state is a violent machine for the redistribution of wealth. And knowing that and then sort of actively trying to do something about that are two different things that are important to different people. To me, knowing, and to most people, knowing, because then anytime you deal with the state, you go in knowing, right? You know that you're dealing with the state. You know that the state is just a bunch of criminals redistributing wealth to themselves and their constituents. So you know that going in and dealing with them, and that's fine. That's great. But then there's this notion of actively trying to do something about the state, either working with the state, being one of its hired killers, for instance, one of its thugs. That's certainly a thing, or working against the state, being a thug yourself, pushing back at the thugs, and neither one of those is necessarily wrong. Any one of them has their place, but I don't think there's a lot of crossover for most people, and I don't think there should be, because I think that there's so much energy wasted in that arena as it is. To put more money into trying to stop something that you're not going to stop, to affect something that you have, there's nothing you can do to affect it. You were given permission to give your participation on one level, and that was your vote. Raise your hand, say aye, and that's it, or nay. That's all you get. That's the best of it. Anything else is a little bit... we're talking, what are you going to do? Tell me, what are you going to do? I say it myself when people are upset with me. Okay, great, you're upset with me. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to go to war? Are we going to go to battle? You know that's not going to happen. So what are we going to do about it? I clearly don't care. So what are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're not going to do anything about it, and that's right. That's the way it should be. You can be upset with me. I haven't done anything to you. You can be offended by the way I live my life or the language that I use and the ideas that I espouse. You can be offended by those things all you want. I don't care. And the problem is yours. And it's a problem that you shouldn't have, because none of those things affect you. Do you understand that? Do you get that? And that's and that's really the core of it, right? Being upset with other people about what other people are saying or doing, and distracting you from what you should be saying or doing. That's it. That's just it. That's what we're here to be doing. That's the better person in any of these conversations, in any of these situations, whether it's again, a Hollywood situation, a fame situation, or a political situation. It doesn't matter what these other people's opinions are, what it is that they're doing. The best that you can hope is that maybe you're rich, or that you have an audience, and that maybe your voice or your money can be spent in some way to counter what's going on in the main system itself. Counter economy, not counter economics, right? We would talk about that before and the distinction about what those two things are. It's very simple. You can run a counter economy. You can do things counter to the way the economy is being run around you. It may or may not benefit you, depends on what it is that you're doing. But what you can't do is conduct economic activity without economics. That's all I'm saying. And I'm telling you that the important part of understanding these things, of knowing these things, is just that. It's in the knowing and knowing your place in where and what you can do in regard to whatever it is, whatever political thing is coming down the pipeline, whatever is happening halfway across the world, or just a state over, or in just the state capital a few blocks from here. Whatever it is, those things that you can't do anything about, and that you shouldn't, right? Okay, so let me ask you a question. What is zero? Any idea what is zero? Yeah, it's a goose egg looking thing. Yeah, that's what that is. That is the question. What is zero? And I'm going to give you the answer coming up here. Go to towardanarchy.com and follow along. Look for episode 2528, and it's right there. It's asking that same question. What is zero? And I will give you that answer. So it's in relation to what I was just talking about in terms of finding your place in this political arena and all these events and things that are happening around the world that you may or may not be able to do something about, but that knowing about them is so much more important. That way you can prepare yourself to deal with what you need to do. If you realize that the government is destroying the economy, that the dollar is bad, that a lot of stock market investments and things can be questionable, that there's different types of manipulations going on out there. As you know that, you know going in, dealing with the dollar, dealing with the system in its dollars is probably not really a good idea. That's why rich people don't hold dollars. They're not hoarding dollars somewhere. They have assets. That's why they talk about what a person's wealth is, the difference between liquid assets and just their total assets, everything that they have in general. Liquid assets are those things that are already or immediately sort of convertible into currency, some sort of cash that you can do something with. Everything else is something that it would take time. You have to go get it. You have to find somebody to buy it. You have to put it on the market. You have to make the effort, whether it's stocks, whether it's collectibles, whatever it is. There's a big fundamental difference. And most people have their wealth in other things because what happens is that those things continue to hold whatever relative value they have, regardless of what the market for money and currency is. So if the dollar is crap, it doesn't really matter whether it's gold or comic books or baseball cards or whatever it is. Those other things hold their value. They keep their value, and when you turn them back in to whatever the local currency is, you get the value of those things at the higher value, not the original value or the older value of the currency that you exchanged for them in the first place. That's the whole point of this. And the crazy thing is that you actually have to explain that to people, that you actually have to make that simple connection for most people. But it's another one of these things that if you just know it, if you just understand it, just like dealing with government anytime, if you know going in that you're dealing with criminals, you're that much better off being able to deal with them whenever you have to, whenever you're forced to. And that's so much more important than actively going after them, because first of all, we know that their system doesn't work, right? Their system is broken. It doesn't function, and it's not sustainable in the long term. They love those words. They love that phrasing. They love to do that language out there that tricks people into making you think that something's more important than it is, but it's not. We see this already. We've seen it historically. We see it with our own system right now. It's not sustainable. It gets too big. The economy gets out out of control. The leaders get out of control. They try to take too much power. Somebody takes a pot shot at them. They get megalomaniacal and start to take even more power. It just ratchets up and ratchets up. It never comes back down. It never comes back down to your level. It never comes back down to where you're comfortable. And this is the problem. This is where we get to the answer to what is zero, to the question of what is zero. And it's a real simple one. It's the easiest sort of Jeopardy answer question pairing that has ever been thought of, and it truly is. And I had this experience here this last week in the store with a customer, somebody who wandered in, and they're new in town, new to the store. And we're talking for a long time, and this happens a lot. Talking for a long time, talking about collectibles, talking about just about anything. And of course, it invariably ends up, it's never me. I don't ever want to go there. That's the facts of it. But somebody always has something bad to say about corporations or capitalism. Somebody always has something great to say about democracy. They trail off into socialism. They start bordering on talking about socialism being a good thing. And you quit. And so that naturally brings me to a state of, I'm either going to beat this person up because they're a danger to me. This is one of y'all statists out there that is a danger to me, that uses the force of government. You have no problem with your vote or your voice empowering government to rob, cage, and murder someone like myself just because you don't agree with me. That frustrates me to no end, you could say. But I'm real cool about things. I have a conversation. My conversation is just like it is here. It's impassioned. It's strong. It's pointed. I'm not going to let you get away with a bunch of BS. I'm not going to be the guy that's sitting there. This has been happening here lately so much. I keep seeing it because there's these nasty, horrible people going around having conversations in public spaces and being given a public platform to say their thing, and their thing is BS. It's nonsense. It's garbage. It's crap. And the announcers, these hosts, they don't do anything. They don't say anything. They just sit there and nod their head as the black woman sits there and says that no white man is capable of ever making anything, of following through on everything. He steals everything from the black man, which is patently false. And depending on what your conversation is, everything's pretty big. That's a pretty big conversation. You want to narrow it down maybe to a few specific points. Maybe we can agree on something. This just keeps happening over and over again, where the conversation that's being had is not being put into check by reason. Well, you don't have that. That's me having the one-sided conversation. We don't have that problem, right? That's exactly what happens here. But when it's the two-sided conversation, I have it exactly the same way. I don't allow myself to do it. I'm not going to allow you to do it. I'm not going to allow you to do it to me. That's certainly not going to happen. You're not going to argue with me dishonestly. And if you make a claim, you better be prepared to back it up. Otherwise, don't talk to me. And I'll tell somebody like that right up front in a personal conversation. You're about to say something. You're about to go down a path that you may not want to walk down with me, because I'm not going to let you lie. I'm not going to let you cheat the conversation. If we're going to have this conversation, we're going to have it, and we're going to have it honestly. And so you get into a conversation with somebody, and it goes as well as it possibly can, for as long as it possibly can, unless you keep making claims that you don't support, and I keep challenging you to support them, and you keep telling me, but that's not the point. Well, then why do you keep coming back to it? If it's not the point, then stop saying it. If you don't know the answer to the question, then stop talking about the subject in general at all, period. If you can't answer the question, especially when it's asked of you directly, then you need to not be involved in the conversation, at least least until you go back and find the answer to it. Until you come, I don't care what the answer is. I'm not telling you that the answer is right or wrong. You have to come back to me with that actual answer and give me the answer first before I can do that, before I can suggest to you that the answer is right or wrong or halfway there or not at all. So when I ask you in complete honesty in the conversation to answer something directly and you don't do it, it gets frustrating, and that conversation turns into an argument, and that argument is always going to be won by the person who is more impassioned, if for no other reason than that they're going to either let their passion end the conversation, or the other person is going to bow out of the conversation because they can't match the passion, and so it's not and they don't do it before it becomes an argument. When it's an impassioned conversation that they can't keep up with, they don't bow out. They wait until they make somebody mad. And this is okay, so it's anecdotal that you don't do this to your wife. So why the hell do you do it to any other person? And that's when she's upset, telling her to calm down. Has that ever worked? Has that ever worked to tell anybody to calm down? Especially when all you have to do is shut your mouth and let them calm down. You don't tell them to calm down. That just makes the conversation worse. So don't go there. I'm just giving that to you as a tip. Don't do this to people. I don't care how the conversation is going. I don't care where the conversation is going. If you feel the need to tell somebody to calm down in their conversation, get out of the conversation because you can't keep up. That's it. You need to get out. You are in it. That's that other person in the conversation. The other person is going to bow out because they can't keep up with the conversation, whether it's the passion of the conversation or whether it's the information of the conversation. Either one of them, both of them can be valid. Both of them can happen at the same time. It's happening right now. You can bow out of this conversation by keeping your mouth shut, not saying a single thing, and turning to the next podcast or whatever it is that you want to listen to. You didn't have to say a thing. You didn't have to give it any more thought. You don't have to send me an email or a text telling me that I'm wrong, that I'm full of it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to tell me to calm down. You don't have to tell me anything. I will calm down as soon as the conversation is over. But if you keep taking the conversation to a dishonest place, in a dishonest space, then you're going to get what comes from being dishonest with people. When you want to play with the kid next door, you be honest with them and you share your toys. You don't behave like a jackass and expect that somebody is still going to have an honest conversation with you. So when I ask you, what is zero? That's actually the answer to the question, right? Sort of Jeopardy style of the question. And so the question is, in the conversation that I had this week, it was a very honest one. The question is, what percentage of my wealth are you entitled to? What is zero, Alex? That is the answer to that question. What percentage, what number, put a number on it. And like I said, it is the easiest Jeopardy question ever. Put a number, I don't care what it is. That's not the point. That's not the point of it. And so when you dodge the question, I don't know what it is. Well, I don't know what it is in this town. I don't know what it is in this community, what percentage it would be in this. What do you mean? What do you mean what it is? It doesn't matter. I'm not asking you in this community. I'm just asking you as a general statement. Anywhere, just give me a number. Tell me, what percentage of my wealth are you entitled to? I grab the cash box over here and I will open it up and there's cash in it. You just take what's yours. Whatever you think is yours, go ahead. And one-on-one, nobody ever takes it. Nobody ever has a number. There's no answer. There's everything but an answer. And so why is this problematic? Well, for the things that I just said, obviously, but because it's dishonest. That's the point of everything that I was saying, is it's dishonest. If you're going to have a conversation with me, we have to have an honest conversation. Once I see that you're a liar, that you are incapable of answering direct questions, I don't want to have a conversation with you anymore, and I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to have that conversation anymore. And so when I say something to you that you can't answer, that you don't want to answer, that you have no response to, maybe you just say, you know what, I don't know at this point, and that's probably all we can talk about, because I don't know. And of course I'm going to come back to it, because you're going to make a defense. You're going to make a defense for whatever percentage it is. That's why I'm trying to get you. Is it just 1%? Okay, 1%. Do you realize that 1% is a huge amount? It's a huge amount. May not be to somebody that has 100% of something, but now I only have 99% of whatever I had. Well, if it's a whole thing that doesn't work without the 100% being there, that's bad, right? The 1% being gone makes it so the rest of the 99% doesn't work. That's a bad thing. Well, so it's not that way quite with money, but then again it is, because that's 1% more of my money that I could have had. And so what happens here? What are we talking about? We're talking about a person who is advocating that some percentage of what I make, of my wealth, of my health, my well-being, all of it, my labor, my brains, my education, some percent of it, you and these other people, maybe not you directly, oh, you're offended by that it's you, oh, it's not you, you're not actually taking it. No, the government is taking my money, and you just said that it's okay for them to do that. So you're the one that's empowering government. Do you see where we're going with this conversation? Can I ask you that directly? Do you see where that's going with the conversation? Well, okay, but you need to be, but the roads, okay, right, but my gas taxes pay for the roads, so that's completely different. But then again, still, it's the answer. How much do I owe you for the roads? How much? What, out of the box? How much is here? There's a whole box. There's not a lot of money in it, but it's what I have. Here you go. We're standing here having a conversation. Put a number on it. Take what's yours. What for the roads? How much do I need to chip in? My gas purchase wasn't enough, right? Because that's how it works, is that the gas purchases pay for the roads. That's a collective thing that is functional and doable because I agree to it. I agree that it's okay to use a percentage of what I pay for gas. That's the option. That's why a tax on products or services, and only a tax on products or services, is better than any other kind of tax, because you get to make the choice. You get to make the choice. You get to decide for yourself whether or not you're going to participate in that system that redistributes the wealth for that thing. And in the case of the roads, it seems like a pretty good thing, doesn't it? It seems like it'd be a pretty good thing to do. We all need roads to get around. I need roads to lead up to my business, so it seems like a pretty good idea. The gas stations are willing to collect the gas tax, as it were, whatever that word is. It doesn't matter, as long as it's voluntary. That's the thing about it. There can be a tax as long as I'm okay to it, as long as I agree to it. I don't agree to them taking a percentage of my wealth right off the top. That's something I don't agree to. But if I go to the store and I buy something knowing what the price is, including the tax, or when I add the tax up at the end and before I pay for it, and it says, well, there's that much more tax on it that you have to pay for now, I can agree to that, or I cannot agree to that. And if I don't like it, I can grow my own food. I can grow my own fuel, in fact. I could use a different method of transportation. I could build myself a battery-powered car if I don't want to pay gas taxes. But you realize if the gas tax goes away, so do the roads. And then the roads have to be funded a different way. So it's a functional, reasonable way to deal with community property, agreeing that, yes, we need this money, we need to pull this money together, and we need to create this. That's not the same as saying that the things that create it can't be privatized, or the function through which the tax is collected can't be privatized, that it has to be enforced by government and backed by guns. Those are two different conversations, and it's one of the things that you can't really You can't really explain to somebody like that because they're not going to listen to it. They're not going to hear that conversation. They don't want to hear the rest of it. That's why I get to have this conversation here because it's better for my health. It's better for the other person's health too. Because you're not going to listen. You don't want when you're in that conversation, you don't want to listen because you're already thinking about the next thing. You're already thinking about, what was that last thing that he said that I still need to respond to, and then what is the next thing that he's going to say that I need to respond to. You're trying to keep up with the conversation. You're not in a listening frame. You're in a conversing frame, and that gives you the opportunity, if you're dishonest in the conversation, to skip over the important parts. When I ask you the question, what's the percentage? Pick a percentage. Give me a number. The answer to that question is not, well, I don't know in this community. The answer to that question is zero. The answer is always zero. You are not entitled to any of my wealth unless I share it with you. The answer is always going to be zero. So everything else that you think is a potential answer is just an excuse. It's just your excuse for why it is okay for some people to have authority over others and to use violence to enforce that authority. And you won't let me get to that part of the conversation. You don't want to hear that part of the conversation because you can't answer that, because the answer is zero. It's not 1%, it's not 2%, it's not 10, 12, 15, 50, 51. It's no percentage other than zero. Nothing of mine is yours via proxy through the government or any other way unless I voluntarily give it to you. And so if you can't answer that question, and after having it framed to you that way, well, look, okay, here's what we're talking about. You realize that it's just a transfer of wealth, right? That there's no that who's getting paid, the things that are getting done, supposedly getting done, are things that I don't want to be done, and that most people don't want to be done, and most people don't need to be done because they're inefficient. They don't function right. That the redistribution of the wealth through the government system is just a method for the government to transfer wealth to itself. Let me give you an example if you don't believe me. Have you ever heard of tariffs? Do you know what tariffs are? Do you understand that when America places a tariff on other products, that Americans from other countries, that Americans pay that tax? That money that is added on top of the cost that you have to pay for something, to buy something from some other country that has a tariff on it, some good that has a tariff on it, is a tax that you are paying to your government. You are being taxed to get. They're telling you that they're taxing them, but they're not. And at best, what they're using is a bully tactic to get them supposedly to drop tariffs or whatever it is on something, some good or service or whatever that's being brought into America. And so it's just more tit for tat, and there's no balance in there. There's never a balance. There's always an imbalance somewhere. Somebody's always feeling like they're not getting the best of it, and so they'll tweak something over here, put a tariff on this thing over here, tax this thing over here, and so the government has raised billions of dollars, $72 billion or something like that. And it could be even ridiculously more than that. That just seems like a number for some reason that I've seen. And here's the thing about that. You get me on this all the time. I did it last week when I was talking about the number of men, young males in this nation that are unemployed, that don't have a job, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but I know that there's a conversation about those numbers, and I don't believe that you can trust those numbers, so I don't think it's important what that actual number is. That number is clearly a big number. It's clearly a number that's unacceptable in general terms, whatever it is, and so it's not about the number, and because the numbers change, so you're not, and that's why I'm not going to commit to a number when I talk about any of these things like this. I might give you, try to give you a percentage relative to things, because percentage percentages work a little bit better. You can derive different numbers from different percentages. But if you give a number, then somebody comes back. If that number's off by even a little bit, it's used as a weapon against you. And so I'm not committing to a number. I'm not telling you a number. I'm telling you that there is a number out there. And if you ask me that number directly, I think that we could go and find that number, but I would suggest to you that that number is not the number, that it's just a number. It's the number that those people that information is coming from came up with at that time. Doesn't necessarily apply today, maybe applied at the time that they did it. Could be that there's some political or social reason why the numbers would be questionable. So what I'm suggesting to you at any point, and it's just a little bit of tangent, just to clarify that you don't have to dismiss something that I'm talking about because I leave out a certain point of information or that I'm not very specific. I will tell you straight up front that there's obviously a gray area in this space that we're talking about, and that it's not the number that's important, right? And that's why I kept telling this person that I'm having a conversation with, I kept asking him, what is the number? What's the number? What's the percentage? Give me a percentage. Well, I can't give you a percentage. Well, why can't you give me a percentage? Well, because it depends on where you live. It depends on how much money you make. It depends on what social class you are. All of these different answers, none of them are an actual answer. They're skirting around the question because there is no real answer other than zero. And so this idea that if you just heard what I'm talking about, you get the idea that I'm being contrary to my own conversation and my own point. I'm not. Those are two different circumstances in the point of the numbers, because it's not in the core sense that one is the attempt to get the number to say something, whereas I'm not trying to get the number to say something because it doesn't matter what the number is. It's the problem with the whole idea in the first place. When I take the conversation back to how the government gets its authority to take the percentage, whatever percentage point it is, whether it's 1 or 99 or 100 or any number in between, whatever that percentage you think it is, you have to justify that. And you understand that government is force, that government is rules, and that government is, if you don't follow the rules, it will use force on you. So any political or social opinion that's turned into law by government and backed by government force can kill you. So if you don't pay them when they say that you have to pay them, eventually they will kill you. If you go out to the street out here, out in front of the shop, I'm in the comic book shop today. It's Saturday morning. And the shop's not open yet, and it's always just a wonderful place. I get to come sit here. If you go out here out to turn onto this road, and there's one of Topeka's finest out here, and he sees you not use a blinker, he pulls you over, gives you a ticket. That's a death warrant. That's literally a death warrant. It is. He has issued a death warrant for you. I know it says traffic violation. I know it says minor traffic violation, but there's no such thing as a minor violation of law, of government rules that are called laws. There's no such thing as a minor infraction of them, because a minor infraction becomes a major infraction. The government tacks on more infractions. So when you ignore it, so you decide you're not going to pay the fine. It doesn't matter how much it is. It doesn't matter why they gave it to you. There's no victim. There's no actual crime. Nobody's property has been damaged. Nothing happened. You just didn't use a blinker to turn out of the parking lot. The cops saw you. That's against the law. He pulled you over and signed a death warrant on you. And it's clear by that, simply by this fact that when you decided not to pay it, what did they do? What did they do? They issued a warrant for your arrest. There's the warrant part. The death part's coming. Trust me, I don't say these things lightly. I mean what I say what I mean. They signed a death warrant for you, so now they've released the warrant for you, and the warrant says you will come and you will answer to these charges. And if you do not come and answer to these charges, we will drag you in front of the judge and you will answer to these charges. The blinker. We will come to your home, kick in your door using a tank if we have to, and we will arrest you. We will shoot your family and your dog and anyone who gets in the way, including you, because you didn't use your blinker. And you refuse to answer to our charges that are baseless, bogus, and entirely about making sure that judges get paid and cops get paid and DAs get paid. That is what you're advocating at any percentage. What is zero? Zero is the percentage of any of me, anything of mine that is owed to you for any reason that you think of or that you think government can think of and can enforce. Zero. Zero is that percentage. There is no. When I explain this to you, when I say to you that the answer is zero and that the answer is zero because any we didn't get to death part yet, right? That's where we're headed. Are you still waiting for me to get anything that you do in violation of government laws and dictates can get you killed? So you don't show up for the warrant, they come and arrest you. And they lock you in a cage. Well, what happens? You're locked in a cage for not using a turn signal. You're locked in. There's nothing reasonable about that at all. Nothing. There was nothing reasonable about getting pulled over and ticketed, robbed for it in the first place. So isn't prison a death warrant? What are you going to do? You're eventually either going to capitulate and you're going to pay the fine, or they're eventually going to kill you or keep you locked in one of their cages where you will eventually die. And do you think that you're the one that's special? Do you think you're the one that's going to get some judge somewhere to say, well, you're right, we had no business writing you a ticket in the first place? Do you think that's going to happen? There are a lot of people that gamble on. I know there's some people shaking their heads right now. Stop it. You're not a goddamn bobblehead. Stop it. I know. I've heard about things. I know about things. I understand that there's an idea that you can go to these people and argue with them reasonably. But I think the conversation that I just had over the last 40 minutes proves that you can't have that conversation reasonably, because those people actually believe there's a percentage. They actually believe that there's a percentage of you that they are owed, that they can take from you anytime they want. They can use any force, any reason, any excuse to do it. And if you don't comply with whatever percentage they want, they'll kill you. I'm right. I'm right in this conversation. I'm right in having it every single way that I've ever had it. And I'm right at being angry at any person who's never had that conversation honestly, because that is the end result. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the law is, what the rule is, what the dictate is. When it's enforced by government, the answer to the final question is, it'll kill you. Government will kill you if you do not comply with what it says, regardless of how minor, whether nobody else was involved, whether there was any moral or questionable activity that occurred ever, anywhere, at any time. It does. None of that matters. All that matters is that they're in charge. They're the ones that they said you did something wrong. You did something wrong. Now pay them. That's extortion. That's gangsters. That's criminal gangster activity, but it's written into law. And it's used as an excuse. And voters, all of you voters, that's what you vote for. And it doesn't matter on what level. Oh, well, okay. So your vote's not going to change anything on the presidential level. You know, your one little vote against all the other votes in the nation. What do you mean all the other votes in the actual votes, right? You don't mean the voters, right? Because most of the people don't vote. Most of the voting age population doesn't vote. They stay out of it. They abstain. So it's just you fools who, instead of knowing and preparing yourself, are trying to actively participate with your one little vote. Oh, how precious! It's so cute. You against 300 million other people, or 30 other people. You know, that's pretty cute too. You better be a badass if you're going to ignore them, even just the 30 people, and suggest that they can't take what's yours, that the answer is zero. The answer to the question of what percentage of my wealth are you entitled to is it's zero. It's zero. If you're going to stand up for that, you better be prepared to defend it. So, how much more could we have in that line of a conversation? How much more needs to be said? How many other examples does somebody need? If you won't accept that the answer is zero, if you won't accept that, there's nothing that we can really talk about. There's no conversation that we can ever have that leads to a resolution of the differences between us. First of all, the differences between us are a cavern of are cavernous. They're huge. They're big. It's a canyon. It's a Grand Canyon. The differences between us are almost insurmountable because you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what you want. You have no concept of the base idea that okay, so all right, so we got to the point where it's your death warrant. They'll kill you if you don't pay them eventually. Well, what about voting? You vote. Well, that's how we change that, right? We vote them out. No. Okay, your vote, I just said it's worthless. Well, it's a little bit better on the local level. Great, but okay. So yes, your vote is more powerful on the local level. I'm asked this question directly. Well, do you think that voting is more important on the local level? Of course I do. I've said it repeatedly over the years. Of course your vote is more powerful. The less people you have to vote against, the more powerful your vote. Duh. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. But do you think that the voting pool changes? Do you think if we increase the voter rolls in any way for whatever reason, I don't care how you do it, do you think that the voting general population of voters gets better? If we add more people to vote, do you think that the same pool of voters improves the outcome of the vote? No, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. A very simple, basic concept that if you take the same pool of resources to produce something and you're not able to produce it, taking more resources from the same pool isn't going to do it. It's not going to complete. If you have problems on the micro level, you're going to at the micro level, you're going to have it at the macro level. That's just what's going to happen because the micro level extends to the macro level, and that's why it doesn't work on the bigger level. So who cares? Who cares about your vote on a local? Here's the problem, because the idea that you have a vote at all is completely flawed. Fine. Let's not talk about Washington, D.C. Let's not talk about the presidency and the people in Congress. Let's talk about my block. Let's talk about a 5-block radius. Let's talk about the businesses in the area around my business. Is it valid if all the businesses in the area, all of the business owners in the area get together and decide to vote to kick me out of the area or to charge me more money, more rent, or to alter the road so that it doesn't go past my business and only goes past there? For anything, it doesn't matter. Make up whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Can we not get past that point that it doesn't matter what the amount is or what the claim is, that it's the result that matters, and the result is that they're going to kill you if you don't agree with them, and that you giving them the power to do so through the vote, through the system, is where the core thing breaks down. It doesn't matter if it's 5 people voting, if 4 of them vote, that doesn't change the fact that the one person didn't want it to happen and that it shouldn't happen. There's always this wonderful example, and unfortunately I never remember the numbers exactly off the top of my head, but luckily I still have them. I captured it. There's a little town, Alma or something like that. It's one of those little towns, little places, just a little bit down the road here. And one of the most recent elections, I just happened to catch on the screen the results, and there's 87 people that voted in the town. The vote was literally 51 to 49%, and it was about a tax levy. It was about money. So literally 51% of the town said the rest of you have to pay for this thing. We don't care. That's the best it gets. Some people will say, well, it gets better than that. What if it's 100 people and 99 of them vote? Do you think that's actually better? Do you think it's better that 99 people just ganged up on one person and said, you have to do it? Well, what if it's only 5 people? What if it's just the 5 businesses in my area around? Does that validate it anymore? At 100 million, take away 4. Make it 1 person. He voted to kill you. Does that still make it valid? No. There's no percentage. You know what the percentage is? What is 0? What is 0? That's the percentage. 0's the percentage. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe your system anything. And just because you think that it's okay by law, that the rules have been set up to take it from me, doesn't actually make it true. And it doesn't make you better for it not being you that raised the hand to take it, that you didn't just reach into the till and pull it out of the till and take it directly from me. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it any different. It doesn't change anything. It's still theft, and you still empowered it because you're the coward. You're the coward. You don't stand it. You won't say, no, you're not going to take any more of my money. You don't shop in gray areas. You don't shop in black markets. You don't make sure that everything that you try to buy in any place outside of cameras and credit card scans, that you don't pay taxes on it, that you pay less for it, that maybe the person that you're dealing with understands that you don't care if they pay taxes for it on the exchange. These sorts of things. Zero. That's the number. It's and it's not a magic number. It's a great number. 0's a wild number, because it's a space holder. It's not a real number. It's not an actual number. It has no value, so it can't be a number. It's the absence of numbers. That's what 0 is. So when I say 0, what is 0? The percentage of my wealth you are entitled to. It's nothing. It's nothing. You are not entitled to any of it for any reason. It doesn't matter what excuse you make. And yes, that's what you are doing. You are making excuses. Well, I'm not making excuses. No, you are making excuses. Well, what do you mean that I'm making excuses? Well, what I'm saying is that we've been through this whole conversation. We've just had this entire 50-minute conversation. And I've asked you repeatedly over and over again to give me an answer as to what's mine, what part of my wealth. And it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be me. Let's make it so it's not personal. It's not personal anymore. It's not you and me. Take us out of the equation. Them. How much do they owe each other? Do you get to decide that? That guy walking down the street right there. He's right with him. How much does he owe that guy over there? How much is him over there, how much is he entitled to with that guy that's walking by? How much? Just give me something. Give me something to go on. And you know why you can't? Because it's an excuse. That's it. It's totally an excuse. And it's inexcusable. Inexcusable. The entire idea this is what I keep going back to, and this is where the conversation, they don't want to go to it because they don't want to question that. They don't want to question democracy. They don't want to question the idea of participating in rulership. It's a weird thing. Instead of just saying, you know what, you're right. No other man has any right to dictate to any other man, even if a whole bunch of men get together and say that they have the right to dictate to other men how they can live their lives. It doesn't make it valid. There's nothing moral about it. You can make all the excuses you want. You can call morality anything you want, but it doesn't make it moral. The morality of a thing is proven by how the people are treated in the end. At the end result, when it's all said and done, when all other circumstances have been removed, in the end, what happens? We get robbed, they get richer. That's what happens. That's not moral. So no matter what mechanism allows that to happen, enables that to happen, causes that to happen, whatever function is in there in that space is invalid. It's invalid, whether you call it democracy, whether you call it dictatorship, whether you call it I don't know what other types of rule are there. There's rule you participate in and rule you don't participate in. That's about it. And neither one of them works out any differently. Neither one of them. There's no significant difference. The only thing that is significantly different about it is it's easier for those people in charge to steal greater amounts of wealth over longer periods of time because the mechanism that does that allows them to do that is wrapped up in the system. It's wrapped up in the idea that it itself must be protected because otherwise the rest of us don't get to participate, and it's not fair. The participation, that's the argument that everybody has with about equity versus equality, right? It's the opportunity versus being forced to. That's the same thing right there. You see the result of it. You see the result of forced equity as opposed to just equality, the opportunity that all of us get. Well, it's writ large. It's obvious with government because they're the ones that are dictating what opportunity the rest of us have. And they do whatever the hell they want, and you say, oh well, they're not above the law, but they are above the law. They're above the law in so much as that they will get together with the gang, with the rest of the gang, and so that no matter what, even if what they've done is not moral, isn't right in any sort of sense of the words, then that it still becomes legal. They make each other's immorality, they make each other's violence and greed that they use against other people, they legitimize it. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing. That's all the voters are doing. That's all you participants are doing. Every single one of you, that's it. That's the extent of your participation in the system on any level. I don't care if it's local dog catcher you're voting for or the President of the United States. It doesn't matter. That's your participation level. Your tacit agreement that they set the rules, and if somebody else don't like it, they can kill them, and you gave them the power to do it. You did it. It's magical. Magical. Ooh, let's cast us a little spell here called democracy and just amaze everybody about how great it works for about 200 years, real short period of time, certainly even relative to other larger societies that have been around for 500, 1,000, 1,500, 5,000 years, and still going relatively strong, even after struggling, through dictatorships and no democracy, not ever having had democracy, and the outcomes no better. No better, except that they're still standing. I guess that's all you get. It remains to be seen if this will still be standing, if any of this will still exist in the future, what future America has. Look, it's the top of the hour. We got to go into a break. Go to towardanarchy.com and arm yourself for the next hour of the show, and just prepare. It's episode 2528. Take a sneak peek because there will be a quiz.
Gun opponents point out correctly that the Second Amendment never says individuals have the right. A well-regulated militia being necessary to a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
The first half of that is always the anti-gunners playfield, because they'll try to conflate militia meaning military, and it doesn't. It means the people. That's why they ended it with the people. We are the militia, right? So anti-gunners paradise is the first half of the Second Amendment. They'll go, oh, it needs to be well-regulated. Well-regulated means in working order. If your house is well-regulated, you guys have a schedule, you eat at a certain time. That does not mean that the government shows up and goes, hey, now you guys got to watch the House of Dragons at 9 o'clock. That's not what that means. It means in working order. What they ignore if you're anti-gunner is the second half of that. The right of the people, the Constitution starts with we, the people, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, keep, hold them, and bear, carry, mean walk around with them, shall not be infringed. That's very clear.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
And here we go off into hour number 2, towardanarchy.com to follow along. When you get there, look for episode 2528, and we answered the question, what is zero? We answered that question last hour, and I'll be in and out of it, I'm sure, coming up here in this hour, but there's a bunch of links and things up there that we might talk about. We'll have a little bit of fun. I did want to ask you to do me a huge favor and support the network, Republic Broadcasting. Visit republicbroadcasting.org, and over on the left-hand side, there's a little bitty button that says donate. It's very unobtrusive, but it is noticeable, and just click it. Click that bad boy, and a couple clicks after that, you have made a one-time donation, a regular donation, any amount, you choose it, you set it all up, you control it, and it's not just for me, it's for everybody across the network. I'm just one voice across the network, and just, I get my time here each Saturday night to say my piece, and it's because of you. It's because of you guys who support the network. You can support the network by clicking that button. Of course, you can also visit shoprbn.com. Excuse me. That's the win-win. You support the advertisers keep advertising, we get to keep bringing you the amazing content all across Republic Broadcasting Network, all the different people who are participating in that process, and there are a lot of us. It's not just me, it's not about me at all. You can give us a call, 800-724-2719, extension 3, if the technology thing is not your favorite, and you can talk to somebody there about how you can support. If you're just ready to support the network, mail that check or money order to RBN 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302. That's Round Rock, Texas, 78664. No matter what, we appreciate it. You're amazing. You have been our rock over the years. You've kept Republic Broadcasting Network on the air all these years. Every broadcast, every voice that's ever gone out, you guys have been responsible for it, and it's amazing that you continue to do it, and it's never been more important. It's never more important than right now, right? No time is more important than the present. That's just a fact. So support Republic Broadcasting, support the network. It's worth it to have the conversation, if nothing else, right? It's just a space where we can come and have the conversation. I think that's half the battle, is just getting the people to sit there and have the conversation. The other half of the battle is getting them to have it honestly, right? Honest conversation. What a novel idea. It's an idea that a lot of people don't follow and hold with, that's for sure. So what I was saying about it early in the beginning of the show there, I mentioned that I might make a fool of myself, or a bigger fool of myself than I normally would, because there was this fun little thing, and I always think it's fun that we do this when we look at something together for the first time, where I just find the link and I think, all right, that's something that we'll just do in real time. We'll just walk right through it. We'll answer the questions or read it or whatever it is. Just go through it together for the first time and just see what happens, see what we get out of it. And I thought it would be real fun to do that with this particular link that I came across, because it's fun. It's actual fun thing, and there's just there's so much of this silliness and nonsense going on in just in the realm of reality as it is, just the whole politics and the economy and all these things that we're talking about all the time. It's just nice to take a minute and have a little bit of fun and try to enjoy something, just even for just a moment, just to enjoy something. And so this link popped up, and I said, you know what, let's do that. Let's have fun with that and see what happens. I'll put myself out on a limb doing it by testing my tabletop gaming knowledge, and it's a diabolical Dungeons and Dragons quiz. So I didn't look at it in advance. I just found the link. I have no idea who it's from, what their goal was. Let's see, I guess it's PC Gamer, written by Robin Valentine, and it's from a few weeks ago. And let's see what it says. It says, Dungeons and Dragons has been with us for over 50 years. Yes, they just came out with the 50th anniversary release of it, where they updated a bunch of things. And it was a little tough to read. We might have to talk about that a little bit. We have talked about it a little bit, but maybe more in depth, have that conversation one of these days about what's going on in there. I brought it up even a little bit last week. If you go back and listen to last week, so that reminds me at this point just to say something really quick, because apparently last week I hosed up the second hour production. I don't know what I did. I don't even know how I did it. I'm not even sure how it's possible for me to have done it, because I don't keep the old files, but apparently I got part of the second hour mixed up, and you didn't, so anybody who listened on the network didn't get to actually hear the rest of last week's show, which is just terrible. If you go anywhere else and listen to it, it's perfectly fine, but the original airing of it across the network, something got crossed up, something I did, I'm sure of it. I doubt very seriously it was anybody, because nobody else could have done it. That's the reality of it. Or it would have been something different. It wouldn't have been what it was. And so, but at any rate, that's available. It's out there, the second half of it. If you go to towardanarchy.com, or if you pull it up on I don't know, what are those places where the show is available? It's on Odyssey, it's on Audible, it's on Pandora and TuneIn and Spotify and Castbox and Amazon Music and YouTube and Apple, everywhere. It's everywhere. Wherever you listen to it, it's been corrected there on the second half, and I'll get it corrected with the archives of the network as well. Okay, so Dungeons and Dragons. This is a quiz. tabletop dungeons, tabletop gaming is a bit, I don't know what the actual questions might be. It could be about anything within the game. It could be about specific characters. It could be about specific versions of the game, which there are different versions of the game and have been for the last 50 years. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what to expect. So let's see. Given rise to the device. Okay, they're saying Dungeons and Dragons has given rise to all these other different types of role-playing games, and it's had enormous impact on the world of video games, and they've had some recent troubles. That's true. We talked about it a little bit. A series of recent gaffes where they tried to monetize the secondary market for adventures and things like that. People who are producing product based on their product, used on the rules of their product, which has been done from the beginning. It was always encouraged. It was part of the process. In fact, most of us made the stuff up. You didn't have all of the books necessary, every single book with every single monster. You just used the skills, the tools, the things that you did have at hand for the storytelling and creation to make the story complete and to come up with your own stories and to have your own adventures. That was always the point of the game. And they tried to take that away a couple of years ago, and it really got him. Well, yeah, I've talked about some of the troubles that we've had with Magic the Gathering, and Magic the Gathering is changing. It's changing. It's changed very much in the last few years. It has switched from being a game that was driven by the players to being a game that's driven by the corporation to produce a product that collectors are interested in, that speculators are interested in, and then they're farming themselves product in the secondary market and cutting people like my little shop out. Thousands of shops across America, game shops and comic book shops across America over the last few years have been cut out of the Magic the Gathering, the UPI, their whatever their gaming system is that controls their tournaments and their matches that you have. And we would have regular play in the store. We would have draft play, and we would have pre-release play, which is a week before everybody else gets it. Little shops like ours could get it, and people could come and play it, and you could buy it just that little bit during that week or on that weekend of the release. Otherwise, it was our opportunity to make a little bit of money on it and keep people playing the game. Well, they cut us out by jacking the numbers of people. They cut out all the small shops. We're a comic book shop. We're not a game shop. As much as some of the guys running around here would like it to be a game shop, it is not. It is a comic book shop that has a gaming component to it. We supply, Warhammer and Blood Bowl, and we have the Dungeons and Dragons books, and we have Flesh and Blood, and we have Final Fantasy trading card game, and of course we have some Magic. A lot of it we buy after. We used to get it before. We used to be a part of it, and we would have prizes and competitions, and the players were what mattered. And as Magic, as Wizards of the Coast, as Hasbro has changed their model from giving a damn about players and the actual game to let's see what property we can slap on some cards and make a bunch of money from. Over the last 2 years, not one single in-universe set from Magic has outdone even the worst of their out-of-universe, their universes beyond stuff. That's where you get your Fallout and your Final Fantasy and your Dungeons and Dragons and I don't know. They've done a bunch of different ones, but they've been more successful than their own creations, and their own creations take a lot more work. So they're making money on slapping Spider-Man on some Magic cards, and it's fundamentally changed the game after they cut everybody else. So the question is, did they foolishly cut everybody else out because the concentration was on gaming at the time, not realizing that they were about to change their model? They didn't know that they were going to change their model at that time. It's been fairly recently that they started doing the properties, and that the properties began making them money and took over. And so I don't know that they did that. Otherwise, they did it foolishly, not realizing now they need our shops to sell the product to the collectors, and it doesn't matter whether or not we have a certain number of gamers playing every week or not, that we're just another place for them to sell product through. Or they did it on purpose. Okay, no, obviously there. If you couldn't tell, there's a little bit of a sore spot in there. The whole and their whole manipulation of things, Magic's whole manipulation of the market. You know, whatever. It's their product. They can do what they want with it. But it's sad to watch. It's the same thing that's happened to Marvel. It's the same thing that's happened to Star Wars. You know, these people with an agenda, and not just a corporate agenda, but you know, the corporate agenda being probably the worst of it. Have gotten a hold of them, and actually there's another article, we'll look at it here in a minute, we'll come back to it, but I shared it up there toward anarchy.com, episode 2528. It's this one, where is it? Why don't I see it? I might have to look for it here in a second, but I wanted to go back and go ahead and do the. Here it was. Okay, no, I did get it. It's right here. Disney chased men out of Marvel and Star Wars. Now they want them back. We might look at that one here in a minute. But the article is up there for you to peruse at towardanarchy.com if you want to go check it out and see what it's actually about. But yeah, it's the same thing that they've done to them. You know, they brought their woke agenda. They brought their corporate agenda. They brought every agenda other than supporting the game and the players and the people who made them what they are today, who gave Hasbro a reason to buy Wizards of the Coast. They gave Wizards of the Coast a reason to buy Magic when it originally did, you know, for them to buy TSR back when they did. The players, us, the people who played the games, we're the ones that gave you the reason that you could make those investments and buy those things, because we made them big and made them money makers. And then you just kick us in the sack and walk away. You tell us that you don't care about the 12-year-old boy that's inside us anymore, that it's all about whatever, it's about your money, it's about your woke agenda, whatever it is. Well, so be it. You get what you get. You get the destruction of long-term quality properties that kept people entertained and made people a lot of money for a lot of years, and now you're destroying them. Okay, so and the point is that they've had their recent little series of gaffes in the Dungeons and Dragons world. I guess we could look at it. Let's see, PC Gamer. It's clear Hasbro, the custodians of D&D, have no idea what to do with Baldur's Gate 3's success, but that's nothing new. It's spent the past 10 years fumbling the bag, and the Baldur's Gate thing is just one and a long list of things. It's weird how they can't manage to properly capitalize on certain things, even though they see the success of them right in front of their face. It's very, very sad, really. Let's see, whether you're a veteran dice chucker who knows what THAC0 is, 2-hit armor class 0, that's what THAC0 is, or a latter-day Baldur's Gate 3 convert, this quiz is designed to test your understanding of the entire long history of the game from its humble origins in 1974 through its most recent incarnation. Don't expect an easy encounter. This is at least a die check of 25 intelligence. That's crazy. And it might take a critical hit to get a perfect score. I mean, 25 intelligence, that's, you know, that used to not even be a thing. It used to be so hard to get to that kind of a level, that kind of a height with the individual abilities like intelligence and strength and dexterity, and you know, it was to get up to that. It took something. It's not that. Now those skills are what you increase in characters. Those are what you build. You know, if you don't have 47 dexterity, given, you know, various adjustments and ring bonuses and things like that. By the time you hit level 20, you're probably not a very good character. Well, depending on whether or not you need dexterity. Pointedly, obviously, if you're a cleric, you don't necessarily need dexterity. That's not necessarily something you'd be building up as a skill, but the point remains the same. Okay, so let's see. Let's hit the actual quiz. Where is the actual quiz? Okay, what is going on here? I don't get this. And the fact that this stupid ad keeps kicking on just because I scroll. I've already paused it. I've already said, what is going on here? Where is the actual quiz? This is... I made a fool out of myself by trusting people to actually produce what they said. Am I in some kind of weird Twilight Zone? Hello? Anybody? Help? I'm slipping into the Twilight Zone. Test your tabletop gaming knowledge with our diabolical Dungeons and Dragons quiz. All right? Comments. Image. Nothing. It's not a link. Oh, what is with my throat? Is it the weather? Okay. No link. Whether you're a veteran, let us know how you did in the comments below. Like this article. What the... And that's a whole new story. What the... Oh my God. What is wrong with the world today? This is a level of stupid I find unconscionable. What is going on here? Let's see if I can go. I guess let's go to the PC Gamer site and see if we can find. This is just taking us back to their collection of work on the MSN site. Let's go to PCGamer.com website. Let's see if we can find the article. Let's see if it's up here. Hacking mini games. Okay, because that's important. You can't just play the game, you gotta cheat too. Ah, Jesus. What a waste of time. That is life. Just ridiculous. I don't understand what's going on here. I really, truly don't. Why does this have to happen? What breakdown in communication here on a professional news site from a professional magazine, for what magazine is worth it these days? For 3 weeks, this thing is sat up here. Look, I'm going over it again. Come on, let's go through it again. This is ridiculous. This is so sad. Nothing. There's no links in here. There's no links. Let us know how you did in the comments. Like this article. This is related video. This stupid video that just keeps replaying. It's just not even worth. I'm not going to comment. I have no comments. Somebody tell me that this is my fault, please, so that we can move on. That I don't have to stand here and wonder whether or not I'm insane or stupid. And just tell me this is my fault so that we can get on with the rest of our lives. I give up. This is so sad. This is so sad. Such a simple thing. I mean, you had one job, right? That's the joke. That's the meme. You had one job. That was it. That was your one job. And you couldn't even get that right. Jesus Christ. Wow. I'm going to post this as it is. Let's look at the Disney thing. Disney chased men out of Marvel and Star Wars. Now they want them back. Pirates and princesses. We got an author name. No, not an author name. Kathleen Kennedy, she's a favorite topic. She made Lucasfilm's president, and she wore that Force is Female t-shirt in 2018 at a Nike event, and some people got a message from it, which apparently was the right message. Anybody that was accused of being of overreacting at the time, obviously now you can look back on it and say that they weren't overreacting, that this was exactly what to expect from something like that presentation. The Force is Female. Let's see, that's women's empowerment. So it was actually tied to a women's empowerment campaign, and of course it suggested a shift that's out of line with everything else, a mostly male audience, like 70% male. Let's see, Marvel faced a similar storm with its post-Endgame focus on heroines like She-Hulk and Miss Marvel, earning the nickname MCU from frustrated fans who felt male heroes were being sidelined. And not the heroes that are being sidelined necessarily. It's us, the fans. We're the ones. It's our interest in them. So that we don't care. We don't care what you're interested in. We don't care. The reason that Disney bought Marvel Comics was because Marvel Comics, was a property. It was names. It had been built up. It had made money. It had proven itself for something like 70 years, 65 years, something like that. 60, 65 years, something like that before Disney got their hands on it. And so we made it. I don't know what part you people think. Why does anybody think that the problem with comic books not relating to certain groups of people had anything to do with the stuff that was actually popular? Why do you don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg? You don't look at your properties and go, well, this property is popular with the people in this certain class, whether it's economics or social class, whatever it is, race, sexual proclivity, whatever they've imagined is so important to the sales, or whatever they believe for fact is what made that thing important at that time. Who looks at it and goes, well, let's make it gay, and then it'll appeal to gay people. Let's make Spider-Man gay, and he'll appeal to gay people. Well, he wasn't gay for 60 years. And then you make him gay. This is just an example. Just an example. There's not. Maybe there is a gay Spider-Man. I don't know. I don't even care. But that's the point, right? Isn't that the point that I'm trying to make, and that everybody has been trying to make for all these years, that the Kathleen Kennedys and other corporate lackeys with their woke agendas and various other agendas other than servicing the community that created them and put them in that position in the first place, this is what we get from them. This is what they're doing. They're not ignoring those characters. When those characters will make their money, they'll take advantage of that. It's the ignoring the audience that's the problem. It's pretending like it isn't 15 to 55-year-old males or 12-year-olds males, the boys, the 12-year-old boy. That's what Lucas said. These movies are made for 12-year-old boys, right? It's that ignoring the 12-year-old boy, pretending that the 12-year-old boy is no longer important, that we've grown up or something. If you hadn't noticed, it isn't appealing to the 12-year-old boys of today either. Did you miss that part? Let's see. By chasing broader appeal, Disney drifted from the adventure and heroism that defined these franchises, leaving many fans feeling unheard. Now in 2025, with young male fans turning away, Disney is trying to recapture the magic with stories aimed at guys. But after years of disconnect, the question looms, can they rebuild trust with the fans they inherited? I don't think that they can. I really don't. I don't think that there's a way to do that, simply because of the fact that they've turned their back completely on them. They've already told us, the older males that created that what they have to work with, what they had to work with before they destroyed it, what created that, even regardless of what state it was in at that point. That was corporate problems. It didn't have anything to do with guys not wanting to be interested in the story anymore. That wasn't the problem at all. They turned their backs on us, and we know it, and we see it, and we don't see them trying to find their way out of it, trying to dig their way out of it. DC's done a better job of it than Marvel has. DC has really, with the All In and with Absolute, they really reached out to their fans and said, look, here's the stories, here's the creators, here's the fantastic art again. We apologize about all the other agendas. We're not ignoring those people anymore, but we realize that our core audience wants this, and they always did want this, and they don't want this, and that it's okay for them to not want this. Marvel and Star Wars, Disney, I don't know that they've figured that out yet. I just don't know. Here's the bullet points for the story. Oh, okay. No, this is the timeline. This is the timeline of the change. So they're giving us the Force's female fallout. That was a 2018. That was like the red flag. MCU backlash. Marvel's focus on female leads. Let's see. Audience misstep. The Wrap's 2024 data shows Star Wars and MCU 65-70% male, 60 to 70% male, depending. It's a simple fact that Disney overlooked, obviously. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. What's funny is I don't even need any of this stuff to tell me these numbers. I already know all of this. Everybody knows all this. All of us idiots out here knew all this before you idiots started tweaking with things and started with your agendas and started trying to change reality. It's like they tried to erase history or color history with a rainbow or with a black crayon or something like that, or with a crutch. It was anything other than just leaving these characters alone and letting them be the characters they are, and creating other characters that filled in the gaps for these people that felt marginalized or left out or whatever it is that they feel that is missing from the conversation. Peter Parker doesn't have to be black. Spider-Man doesn't have to be black. Why can't there just be a black character who has relative spider-like abilities? That's the way things used to be done. Certainly when it was from one comic book company to another, where they were, there's only just so many powers: is strength, speed, magical things, lightning bolts, freeze rays, heat rays, things. There's only just so many things that can be done, period. There's only just so many elements. There's only just so many ways things affect other things and interact with other things. There are only just so many powers that somebody can have. And so what do? Well, you have a different kind of spider person. You have another spider person, and that spider person is not Peter Parker. He's somebody else. But he has similar powers. Nobody cares about that because he's not trying to be Peter Parker. He's not trying to be Spider-Man. And that may be... some people might think that that's a bad example because Miles Morales has done really well, but Miles Morales hasn't done that well in comparison to Peter Parker. Miles Morales by himself has done really well as Spider-Man for a book of its own, but in terms of overall sales and continued interest in readership, Peter Parker sells far more books than Miles Morales does. So again, you still have these people that whoever, and it's not just white guys. There are black men and Mexicans and women and the people of different proclivities and different religions. I know. I own a store. I see them come in all the time, and all of them have the same complaint. Even the people of different proclivities and different colors and different ideas have the same complaints about these characters and the recharacterization of these characters and the remaking of these characters. They're offended by it. They should be offended by it. Anybody should be offended by it. Why do you have to, why can't you treat the black audience or the female audience or the gay audience or whatever audience it is you're reaching for with some respect? Give them the characters that stand on their own. Don't rehash characters into new versions of themselves themselves to appeal to an audience, it doesn't work. If it would have worked, those people would have been those things in the first place, or they would have become those things. There wouldn't have been other characters that would have come along to fill those gaps. You don't need Spider-Man, you have Black Panther. Black Panther's a fantastic character, does great by himself. You didn't need to make a black Spider-Man. You had Black Panther. You just used Black Panther. You create a universe around Black Panther. They got part of that right. They did part of that after they realized that some of these other things weren't really working out for them. All these different handicapped Spider-Man and different things have gone by the wayside because they don't have any interest. Nobody wanted those things. Nobody asked for those things. And any of the people that complained and said that they wanted those things, that those things weren't present, were people that, for one, oftentimes people that created their situation. It's not like they were born into their situation. They created their situation no matter what you believe. I don't care. They created this. They weren't born a certain color, so that's not their problem. They were born one way. They envision themselves, for whatever reason, legitimate or not, as something else, and nobody ever asked for that. Let's see. Lucas's vision lost. George Lucas said Star Wars was for 12-year-old boys. He focused Disney replaced with mature, inclusive stories. You can do both. The comic books are proof of that you can do both, that you can cater to an adult audience with conversations and have bigger conversations, more adult conversations if you want to. And proof of that is when you take Peter Parker, you take Spider-Man, a teenage boy, high school, college-age boy, generally speaking of the character itself, and the majority of its storyline and timeline falling in that sort of period where he's a young man. Whereas, in the last year, and they've done this before, done with other characters, but have been talking about Spider-Man so much here, it's a good example. They have the Ultimate line of comic books right now, and another series of Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimates, Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Black Panther. There may be, I don't know, there might be another one or two in there. Ultimate X-Men, yeah, that's one. That one's strictly Peach Momoko, who's doing that, writing and drawing that entire series, which that's saying something. That's a lofty goal to reach, but she's done really well. It's been very successful, and people are really liking it. And all the Ultimate stuff is because it is a little bit more geared toward a grown-up audience, if you will. It's definitely not going to be kiddie stuff, but it's not adult it's not like adult in terms of the presentation is something you wouldn't want kids to see. That's not the point at all. It's talking about subjects, it's dealing with topics that are things that adults have to deal with. In the case of the Spider-Man, he's grown up, he's an adult. He himself is a 40-something, and he's married to Mary Jane, and they have kids, and they have all the problems that surround them in trying to maintain a life and have a life and raise children and have a family, and him still be a superhero and do those, and so it appeals to a different audience. It appeals particularly to an aged audience, an audience that grew up with Spider-Man and grew out of Spider-Man because Spider-Man wasn't Spider-Man, he was Spider-Boy. And now he's Spider-Man, as you have adults like myself who've grown up, whereas I'm a perfect example of that. I don't have any use for the Spider-Man stories because they're basically teenager stories, love loss problems, things like that. Oh, my best friend turned out to be somebody I don't like. These are things that yes, we deal with all throughout our lives, but they're things that we deal with early on and find our position on them in terms of how we're going to deal with them as people a long time ago. Those are kid type problems. In fact, when you become an adult and you run into those types of problems, people tend to say, wow, that's childish, you're acting like a child, that's a child's problem. Why are we having to deal with a child's problem when I'm talking to an adult? And so it appeals perfectly to someone like myself who as I got older, as I got past college age, I didn't want to read Spider-Man anymore, and I stopped reading Spider-Man after that age. I continued to read X-Men, I continued to read some Wolverine, some things that were a little bit more about adult characters, and they had a little bit more adult conversations. And again, not dirty conversations, conversations that adults have, that children, things that children aren't thinking about, they're not worried about. Children aren't worried about raising children, you hope. But you know what they say, children raising children. Let's see, 2025, but they did it with Wolverine too. Wolverine is one of the perfect examples because Wolverine is one of the first characters. I mean, they've done it with comic book characters all throughout history, throughout the history of comic books, but to concentrate on a character that they've aged purposely. And it's an interesting thing to do with Wolverine because he's already so old. He's already, he's lived for a long time. And now what they've done, they did this, I don't know, a decade ago, or maybe a little more than a decade ago now at this point, maybe almost 2 decades ago at this point now in the first iteration. But at any rate, they came up with a character called Old Man Wolverine, and it's just older Wolverine. And they didn't just do a story about Wolverine being older, they started a series of Wolverine as an older character living out an older person's lifestyle. And so he deals with some of the more adult things. He's older, he doesn't move as fast, he doesn't heal as fast, these sorts of things. And that's relative and relative to individuals who are getting older and experiencing those things in their own lives. And so there's proof that you can do it. You do not have to manufacture a character or a premise or an idea. You don't have to reshape another character. You could say Wolverine to Old Man Wolverine, that's reshaping the character. No, it's not. It's aging the character. It's making an age-appropriate character. It's taking a character that in real life has been around almost as long as I have. He was introduced in 1974. I was introduced in 1973. I found an erector set, a pocket erector set the other day from 1973, still sealed with the original tape. I'm 52 years old. I don't have my original tape anymore. No, Wolverine is 51 years old at this point. And so are the people who read Wolverine, 61, 71, some of them are old. And old, you're old, she's old. And they have different understand. They have a different understanding of the world. They have different problems, different thoughts. They've grown up, and the character aged with them because the creators saw it. The creators went, "Oh, look, you know what we need? I'm older. I want a Wolverine that talks about older issues, deals with older person's issues." And it makes sense, and it works. And if you create a space for the characters that represent you or the things that you're into, then it's going to naturally fit into its space rather than try to be shoehorned into a space where nobody wants it. And that's what's happened. Let's see. 2025 wake-up call. Disney's low appeal among Gen Z men 13 to 28 pushes a pivot to original stories, but trust is shaky. Well, of course not, because they lost it for us, and those are our children. Those 13 to 28-year-olds are my children, and if I wasn't going into a comic book store, if I was going to the movies and thinking, God, that sucked, that movie, that MCU movie sucked, that Star Wars movie sucked, if I was going and my children are seeing that, of course they're not going to like it either. Why would they? Who is it that thought any of this wouldn't happen? Who is the short-sighted idiot that allowed these things to happen to these properties and to these companies? Lesson learned, let's see. Ignoring the passionate male-leaning fans of Star Wars and Marvel has left both franchises struggling. The force is male. The fans Disney forgot. Yeah, the article goes on. You get the point. It's all there. And look, these are great. I love these characters. They show these characters, these female characters there that they made into action figures, and it was a specific set of action figures that were female characters, and that's great if you make those female characters for me for the rest of my collection, for the rest of my toys. If you make them and try to push them off on to a female audience that already isn't interested in them, the 30% of the audience that is already buying them and is getting them in any of the other collections that they can get them, but you put a collection out there, you put rainbows on it, you make it pretty, you make it girly, it's not going to appeal to boys. It's not going to appeal to older men who are buying their boys toys that don't mind that they play with the girl doll, but it better not be in a rainbow box. It better not be in a pink box. It better be the girl doll that goes with the other dude dolls, and there's, it's just the girl. It's not, oh, I want to be a girl, I want to play with girl dolls because I like girl things, because that's something that most of us men don't want our boys doing. If it happens, some of us can deal with it, some of us can't. But they make these toys appeal. They try to push them to an audience that doesn't want them, and then they try to do the opposite of what they've been smart at doing for all these years in producing the toys and things like that, particularly when you're talking about Lucas and you're talking about Star Wars and the success that they've had in the secondary market with the toys and things. When they originally produced toys, there was an equal amount of things in the box. You got one of this, one of that, one of that, or two of this, two of that, two of that, two of that, and that's basically the way it worked. And then after a little while, they realized, oh, well, there's certain characters, there's only a core group of characters that people really want to buy, and these other ones end up sitting on the shelves, so let's not produce as many of them. Let's put two of this one in there and two of this one in there and only one of this one in there, because they're only going to buy one of that one. There's only 50% of the people are interested in that, or whatever. The numbers may not be that exact, and again, talking about numbers, what I was talking about in the last hour, it doesn't matter. It's about the outcome. It's about how you massage the numbers and present the numbers, not about what the numbers actually are. And so you have a vision that this is the way things work with your audience, and so you cater to that audience. But then you want to manipulate the audience. Well, you want the audience to buy more, because if you get the audience to buy more, you get the distributors to buy more, and they're not complaining about figures that are left on the shelf and then they don't want to buy the next time something comes around. So they altered that. But then at some point that has shifted. And so what they've done now is what you'll get real recently, what you get now is you get them trying to produce all of those characters, even if nobody wants those characters, and produce them in the low number. And the way you get people to buy them all, whether those low numbers sell or not, is you split them up. So let's say you take the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You have 4 core characters. Obviously, there are more than that. There's Casey, there's April, there's Shredder, there's Splinter, and there's all these other characters. There's Baxter Stockman. There's all these other characters around in the Turtles, but there's the 4 main characters. So if you release Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo all in one case to the distributors or to the general public, either way, they're going to buy the one case. That's it. They got all 4 of their characters. They don't give a damn about all the other characters that you created. They don't care about the bad guys. They don't care about only a percentage of those people care about those. So what they do now, instead of releasing all 4 turtles in one box, you release 2 turtles in one box. They've been doing this for quite a while. Lego does it, they know they do this on purpose, and I would challenge anybody to prove me wrong that they don't do this on purpose. I know for a fact that they do this on purpose. You split them up. You have 2 releases. You have Series 1 and you have Series 2, or and Series 3 and Series 4 and Series 5, whatever, on and on and on. But you have Series 1 and you have Series 2. In Series 1, you release 2 turtles and you release 2 bad guys. And so that way they have to buy 2 turtles and 2 bad guys to get the 2 turtles. You can't get 4 turtles at the same time. You have to buy the other set. The distributors have to buy the other set. The collectors are going to buy what they're going to buy, but the this is what I'm talking about. and they're pushing them on to the distributors and the retailers because the retailers have those extra figures sitting on the shelf. Well, if they want to buy Leonardo, they already had to have bought Raphael and Donatello. I'm using a very specific example because one of the most recent releases of characters has been the Greystone, the Masters of the Universe, Turtles mashups. So it's the Turtles with the He-Man crossover, and there's some fantastic characters, and they really did a neat thing crossing them over like that. And the Turtles have done really well with that. They've crossed over with wrestlers and other things over the years. Sports players, there's football Turtles, and there's all sorts of different characters and things that they've done successfully over the years. And the most recent release has been the Masters of the Universe matchup, and they did just that. They did specifically that. Donatello and Raphael, and I think Mechanic and one of the serpents, one of the snake characters, a Rattler maybe. All four of them in the first box, and then in the second box was Leonardo and Michelangelo, and they split those up. Raphael is the most popular character next to Michelangelo, so you split those two characters up, so that way if people want those two characters, they have to buy all the other characters, or the distributors and the retailers have to buy all those other characters to get the Raphael on the shelf, to get the Leo on the shelf, the characters that will actually sell. And so it's a manipulation. They're just always trying to manipulate to get you to buy characters that you don't want. And more importantly, and this is where it breaks down, and this is why you have ollies packed to the rim with every single character that's been made in the last 10 years, especially these types of characters here. If you're watching the video, you can see them. They're up on the screen. That are geared toward a particular audience. They're these, not necessarily woke characters per se themselves, but they're presented in with, the rest of the woke agenda, about the girl agenda, about the gay agenda. And some of that is all imagined. Don't get me wrong. Some of that stuff is imagined. All the complaints about the woke agenda with the which was the Acolyte. The Acolyte was a perfect example of that. The Acolyte was that Star Wars 1,000 years ago or something like that, and maybe not that long ago, but it was a long time ago. And there's so many different universes and eras within the Star Wars universe. If you're just a basic Star Wars person, you don't know. They're all over the place. There's 2,000 years before, 1,000 years after. They're all over in that universe. It's been around for so long. But the Acolyte was a perfect example of that. The Acolyte was bashed because of what I've told you, and I don't know why they haven't figured this out yet, because if I can figure it out, then anybody can figure it out. It's the parsing out of the product. It's the dropping an episode every week in an environment, in a world, in a time where it's easy for somebody to catch that episode, then go on and reach tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people, and tell them what a piece of crap that episode was, so that they don't end up watching the rest of the episodes and actually getting the whole story. So instead of dropping a series all at once, they just did this with King of the Hill. Now, if you had taken any one of the King of the Hill episodes, these brand new episodes that they just created after a decade or whatever it was, 13 years, something like that, of them being off the air, of not doing episodes, to come back to age the characters, to do what works, they did it all right. They aged the characters to talk to an older audience. They didn't change the characters into something that they were never before. They logically grew up and got older and became things that they may not have been before. They didn't there were no magical powers that turned them into something, repainted the color of their skin, kryptonite that turns them into a woman or makes them gay or whatever it is. These are things, believe it or not. They didn't do any of that. They did it the right way. way. They age the characters naturally along with the intelligence and presumed intelligence and expectations of the audience that they were trying to reach, and they dropped the entire season all at once. If you had taken any given single episode, you may be able to pick it apart and say that this was a bad idea, but you take the entire season, you have to take it as a whole. You have to take the bad with the good, and you don't get to separate them out. And you get to see the completed work, the completed vision. That didn't happen with The Acolyte. It was released week after week after week, and week after week after week. It was continually bashed before you got to see the rest of the story. It turned out it was a really good story, and that the woke agenda that supposedly existed in it either existed initially and they immediately got the point that it wasn't going to work, that it wasn't necessary, that they didn't need it for whatever reason, but they shifted out of it, if it existed at all. I never saw it. But then again, I don't go looking for it. I'm not that person. I don't go looking for what's wrong with it. I go looking for what's right. I go looking for the entertainment and to be impressed by the spectacle of it all, not to pick it apart for what it didn't do for me, what I expected that they should have done for me. It's not mine. They didn't make it for me. They made it for themselves. They made it for fans. They made it for any other reason but me. They don't even know who the hell I am. They can't cater to me. So therefore, if I put my expectations on it, I'm going to be disappointed. I have to go into all of these things expecting them to be what they are, not what I want them to be. And if you do this thing where you drop these series week after week after week and allow people to just beat the crap out of individual episodes and failures or incomplete stories, things that don't connect or don't mesh because they haven't yet, and you haven't even given them a chance, you're going to get exactly what happened with The Acolyte. You're going to continue to get what's going to happen with these. They did it again to the Rebirth, the Marvel Daredevil thing. Great series taken all together, but people picking it apart episode by episode. It's not what they wanted, and that's always what it is too. It's always what they wanted, what they expected, what they should have done with the character to meet my standards. Sorry, folks, that's not the way it works. They didn't create these characters for you. I don't know how your ego got that big that you think that everything in the world is created for you and should have put it. I don't know if it was your parents. I don't know if you're one of these millennials that has idiot parents that didn't raise you properly, or if you're a Gen Xer that wasn't raised properly, or if you're a boomer that wasn't raised properly. You don't have respect for things. You don't have perspective on things in your place in them, especially when they're not yours. I don't know what to do for you. I can't really help you on that. I don't have a lot of help for you in any way, shape, or form, because you may not be helpable. You're going to be one of these people that it's always about you. Everything is about you. And I get that perspective to a certain point. But at some point, it's actually not about you anymore. And that's most things. That's what started the conversation, right? At the beginning of the hour last year. It's not about you. There's so much of it that's not about you, and it doesn't affect you. And you taking on the burden of it, the knowledge of it, the burden of the knowledge of it, and your inability to do anything about it is far more detrimental to your mental and physical health, and is of no help to anyone else. So why do it? Why do it? Find that space, find that place where you can enjoy yourself and enjoy the things around you instead of expecting them to be what they can't be, what you want them to be. How many different songs in popular, in pop music have been created about you can't change me, I can't change you. We have to accept each other the way we are, or we have to move on. We have to get on with our lives, and you'd be cranking that stuff up in the car and then going on in your real life and taking on all these burdens of things that are not yours to carry and carrying with you, and then unloading them on innocent store clerks who just want to serve you and provide you with the product and really don't care about your delusions about what you think the world should be like and how the world should treat you. How about this? When it's just you and me in the conversation, how about you stop pretending like there is any of this other stuff? Like any of this other stuff matters at all in any way, when it's just you and me, when all that matters is what's going on right now between you and me, this right here, right now. And it's probably the only thing that will matter right then at that time, and it probably won't make a difference in the future unless you do the wrong thing right now. And that's where that knowledge that I was talking about, that knowing, comes in. Being prepared, being able to separate yourself from the system, from any of these. Okay, well, that's about enough of that, and not because there isn't more and that we couldn't poke some more fun and holes in the ideas of Star Wars and Disney and everything that they've done with Marvel. And yeah, see, there's some of those Ollie's figures that I was talking about. That stuff is just the Rey figures and a lot of the female figures and those secondary figures that I was talking about. They piled up on shelves, and Kenner, some of these toy companies, there's even been talk about suing them over it, and that they're producing product that nobody wants, and they know it, and that it's just piling up all over the place. So now what's happening is Disney is looking for 12-year-old boys. And on that note, we have to go. We have to get out of here. Do me a favor, before there's no chance left for you to do it, take a moment right now. Click that like button if you like the episode. Thank you so much. We will see you again next week. Until then, take care.
President Reagan put this very well once in a speech he gave in San Francisco, in which he said, let's suppose three of us are out in a boat in the ocean, and one of the fellows in there takes out a gun and shoots holes in the bottom of the boat. Is it the sensible thing for the others of us to do, to take out our guns and shoot more holes in the bottom of the boat? That's kind of a silly notion, isn't it? But yet that is exactly the notion of protection and retaliation. Suppose Japan and Europe do, and they do, no question, impose protectionist tariffs. That hurts them, it hurts us. If we turn around and impose protectionist tariffs on them in retaliation, all we do is to hurt ourselves some more and to hurt them some more. That we're just shooting additional holes in the bottom of the boat. It doesn't make any sense. The best thing in the world would be for all countries to engage in free trade. But even if other countries don't, then the sensible, rational thing for us to do, all by ourselves.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network.